Yeah, talk to me. 没事没事。Yeah. Coco, what are you doing?
You might step on her just now. So,
Before I came to China.
yes,
Yeah.
maybe most Western people like you, like in America, like they don't really have. They got image about China from the social media or just maybe from the.
My image of China before I came was not much, except that a couple things. One is that it's a big, strong, growing economy that is competing very strongly with the US. Two is that almost every manufacturing company has opened up a factory here, so it's become the factory of the world. And three, not so positive, Chinese companies tend to imitate American ideas.
Like, oh, okay. So that's a three image.
But I did not think too much about the quality of life, and it far exceeded my expectations, because my expectations actually weren't much. But when I came to Shenzhen, I was completely surprised at how clean the place was, how modern the place was, and you could feel the tech and the modernness everywhere around you. So that was very unexpected, I'd say. And still I get surprised at the rate of growth and change. I mean, you can see new parks being built in a matter of 6 months. We saw two, Suhai Park in about 8 months, with a whole new updated lake, man-made lake, and the park by our house, which has equipment, like Nautilus type equipment in the park, with body mass machines and all kinds of different modern equipment, like video, treadmills, body mass machines, and all kinds of things. So you don't see those kinds of things in other countries. China's spending a great deal on modernizing a lot of the communities. And in Shekou, you can see the contrast, because there's the old China and the new China.
Yes.
So where we live is the old China. And you can film me. You can film me,
Yes.
where we live is the old China. And basically, where we live is the new China. And now, if you go just 3 blocks away or 4 blocks away, you go to Old Shekou Road, and you see a lot of the old China. And the old China is a bunch of shops and street vendors and those mom and pop businesses. But you can see that that's becoming less and less and less, and more of the area is just getting constructed with modern roads, modern streets, modern everything, modern parks. And it's funny because sometimes it's annoying how much construction there is. There's construction everywhere. Buildings being constructed, parks being constructed, apartments being renovated, old buildings being torn down, like the one by my office. Just tore down the whole building recently. So there's construction everywhere. In some parts of Shenzhen, like in Shekou, like the port area where the ferry building is, seems like they're doing a massive project there because if you go there, you deal with all kinds of construction trucks that go on the road. That's why we didn't want to live there, because the whole place is looking new, but still tons of construction. They're building, I don't know what they're building, overpasses, highways. The good thing is those trucks are only allowed to go on the road before 8 a.m. and after like 10 p.m. from what I heard. But still, massive construction. I think they're making that whole Shekou port area a brand new part of the city, kind of like a big marina, like you have in places like Florida, Santa Monica. So it's going to be amazing, I think, when it's done. So yeah, all this like modernization happening in front of me over the last 2 years, because I've been here since 2019, and the rate of change is so quick. I remember in San Diego, in Carmel Valley, which is where I live, we have a huge project called One Paseo, and that took almost 2 years to get approved, and they had to scale it down because of so much opposition. You know, there was a lot of the community wanted it, and let's go this way, Coco. A lot of the community didn't want it, and so I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, it's good to be able to voice your opinion, but at the same time, like, it took forever to get one big project done. And so because of this government and because of the way things work here, things happen much, much faster. There isn't like a democratic process to decide on things. I think it's just a unified decision by the central, or in this case, the local government. And it's not really up for a decision. It's just what they decide to do happens. And when it happens quick. And it seems like they put a lot of money into beautifying. So I call this phase of Shekou, and probably all of Shenzhen, the beautification phase. They're making Shekou very pretty, and Shenzhen. And as we travel to new cities, we're also noticing that happening with a lot of cities. These cities are growing up very fast. So China is starting to suburbize, right? Getting out of the city and building big time outside of these big cities. And one other thing we were talking about, which is related, is the fact that there's lots of news lately about Tencent and these big corporations in China. What was the other one? There's Tencent and Alibaba, Baidu. The Chinese government is essentially cutting back on a lot of investments into those companies. They're kind of stunting the growth on purpose through policy. And on the surface, you wonder why. Like, for example, this whole education training thing, they've basically shut down all the education training centers. They've really limited gaming, which is one of Tencent's major sources of revenue. And on the surface, you wonder why. And you could just argue this is the negative part about communism. But actually, I think, thinking about it deeper, it's actually a good move for China. I do agree with the government on this one, because, like, they're spreading the wealth.
Yes.
So it's not about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, right? It's like now the Chinese economists are realizing that the nation and the economy as a whole will prosper if everyone is equally distributed in wealth, not just the rich. That's what made America great, to be honest, is the middle class. And now you're starting to see the disparity between the rich and the poor in the US is getting bigger and bigger, which is not a good thing. And that is what is China's focus, in my belief, on why they're doing what they're doing, which is to spread the wealth. So I'm kind of in favor of them curbing capitalism and profit making from the rich, both individuals and corporates, to make sure that the wealth is evenly spread out across the country. One more point I'm going to make on this is that COVID in the last 2 years has been a massive impact around the world. And it started in China, but it's totally amazing to see what they did versus the rest of the world in containing this virus, to the point where even though they have this border closed situation, which is not good for us personally, they've been able to manage 1 billion plus people to the point where these communities are essentially virus free. And if you see a break of some virus, like 10, 15 people, they put immediate actions to make sure it doesn't spread. Like, I don't know, 6 months ago, there was an outbreak in Shenzhen, and they basically mandated that every citizen in Shenzhen, 17 million plus, get the nucleic acid test done in a matter of 3 days. Remember? We stood in that long line.
Right.
That's unheard of anywhere. There's 17 million people to get the nucleic acid test. So there's a lot of controversy about the zero virus tolerance policy. But again, I think in this way it's good control. There's good control and bad control. In this way, it's been able to allow us to have a very good life over here, better life than pretty much anywhere else. I'm embarrassed to posting sometimes on Facebook because our quality of life during this COVID time has been really good. Being able to basically do whatever we want to do. Just taking some precautions, like always wearing a mask, checking our temperature wherever, and body temperature wherever we go, and consistently doing nucleic acid tests and tracking our movements. Again, which you could argue is very, I don't know what the word is, controlling in certain ways. But I can also argue that that's good control. Whereas in a country like the US, it's so divided in terms of controversy that it's just difficult to control an outbreak. So all these things combined, I mean, the growth of like the economy, the modernization of the cities, the beautification of the cities, the spreading of the wealth, the management of the virus, is why China is just doing so well. And I think a lot of the world is becoming jealous and also taking note. I mean, I wouldn't stay in Shenzhen this long unless I felt good over here. And my quality of life, I can argue, is probably the best it's ever been, living in Shenzhen. So for all those people out there that have like unclarity as to life in China because of the news, I'm telling you as a personal blogger that there's nothing I've seen like it out there.
Nice.
Does that answer your question?
Let's answer my question.
Yeah.
And I have another question.
Oh no. That might be another long answer.
I have another question.
Okay.
So just now you told me that what most Western people like you who never been in China before, what's their opinion on China?
Yeah.
And also after you come to, so like before you come to China, what's your impression? Like most of the Western people do. And after you come to China, what changed you and what do you feel about the life here?
Right.
So since most of Chinese companies
Yeah.
want to, because of the
You can sit here for a minute. Yeah.
yes, returning about the most cross-border e-commerce company trying to explore the business overseas,
Yeah.
like America, Europe, or Southeast Asia. they are exploring the business overseas and they need to hire the local.
Coco. Wait.
Wait,
We're having an interview.
wait,
Okay.
wait. Sit.
Yeah.
Those big brands like Xiaomi, Huawei, or the very new brand
Yeah.
like One More, the headphone company.
Yeah.
If they want to hire the local people overseas,
Yeah.
like what's your the guard is coming.
You forgot your question?
The guard is coming.
Oh.
It's behind us.
Okay. Give her water. And this side end.
Come here. Here. Eat your food. Okay. Eat your food.
Coco, you want your food? It's right there. Go. That's a good girl. Okay.
Like small D2C brand.
Yeah.
Uh,
B2C?
D2C.
Yeah.
Most Chinese D2C brand.
Mhm.
If they want to hire the local people overseas, like
Yeah.
US,
Yeah.
which is where you are from.
Yeah.
And because normally because of some the old impression for Chinese company,
Yeah.
it's hard for the recruiter like us to attract those to join the Chinese like D2C company.
Yeah.
Do you have any like advice from your perspective? Like one of thing I know why most of the Western people, of course some Western people are willing to join because like fast growing company and more energetic. But also some of them are not willing to join because many impression. So what's your perspective? Like how do we like solve this problem?
Okay. So your question, let me sum it up, is basically how do you help like Chinese companies to recruit local talent in local markets? Is that kind of your question?
Yes, because normally now, over like our global recruiter, no matter in the agency or no matter the headhunter or the in-house recruiter,
Yeah.
we are facing the same. We are facing the same challenge. Is that our problem is not how to find that candidate. Our challenge is how to attract those local candidates to join the Chinese company.
I think that there's some inherent problems with this model. Yeah, some problems that there's nothing you can do about,
Yes.
which is politics. And I think basically because the US and China are political competitors now, there's a lot of kind of tension, and that leads to trade wars and political wars. Doesn't have to be physical war, but lots of other types of
Soft.
conflicts that are basically creating negative impressions of each other's countries. So an American might not think as highly or regard as highly working for a Chinese company because of these tensions. A lot of it is propaganda. A lot of it is, again, the media portraying negative aspects of both societies. It's sad, but unfortunately, it's human nature. And so, because the leadership, which are the governments, are not looking as friendly to each other, it kind of trickles down to the people and opportunities where they could engage in kind of globalism, you know. And I think because of the fact that these soft, like you said, conflicts are occurring, it makes it tougher for a recruiter like you or a headhunter to recruit local talent. So that's an inherent problem which is hard to overcome. But that said, I still think that ultimately it comes down to a couple things. One is trust, and if you know that company can establish some positive reputation and positive trust. For example, if you're trying to recruit for Huawei, well, Huawei has not gained any trust in the American consumer, right? Because everybody feels that Huawei has stolen a lot of American technology. Whether that's true or not is a debate, but that trust issue, I think, would make it difficult.
Right.
But if there's a new innovative company or service out there, Chinese, that happens to be doing well, for example, OnePlus or Realme, those are Chinese innovative brands that seem to have like grown an appeal in the U.S. market, or ByteDance's TikTok, huge popularity in the U.S. I think TikTok is now the #1 most downloaded app on the iOS store. Those companies have managed to instill trust in the American consumer. And so for those companies, it's just going to be, I don't think it would matter if it's a Chinese company or not a Chinese company. I think it's just a matter of those companies being competitive in terms of salary, benefits,
Yes.
and stock.
Like other local company.
Right. So one of the things that Chinese companies that are, so if a Chinese company has established that trust or credibility and good reputation, they should really look and understand what other companies that are local companies or local competitors are doing in terms of, you know, compensation, work-life balance, and all of those things that you know, Americans value. And it's not just about compensation, but it's about vacation time. It's about, are you going to get equity, part ownership? Will you have the opportunity to grow with the company and expose yourself to senior roles in the company? Is a position strategic? So I think if companies start to analyze, Chinese companies that are in an area, for example, let's just take Realme. If Realme starts looking at Apple or Google to see how they hire their employees and the kinds of benefits and opportunities they create, and they can offer competitive things, then I don't see why, and they already have established that trust, I don't see why a recruiter would have a difficult time recruiting a local American. You know, I'm just talking in context of the US because I'm American. I don't know about Europe as much. So I think first and foremost, you should represent companies that are reliable, trustworthy, and have gained good credibility, and they're doing things that are different, innovative. They're not trying to imitate an existing company and wipe it out. I think, you know.
But at least they already have some business there and known by some market.
They have business there, they're known by some market, and people are not stupid, right? They can tell pretty quickly if a company's ambition is to do something unethical, like wipe out an industry or create a monopoly, or they're doing something to expand their global presence. And if it's the latter, that's great. It's competitive world, and I think at the end, in this world, I mean, the greatest innovations and greatest technologies and greatest corporate cultures will succeed. So if it's truly a competitive product company, but not really an unethical company, that's the first criteria to represent as a Chinese headhunting firm. And then you have to make sure, I think part of the value you guys could add is providing that Chinese company with the education to understand what kinds of benefits, what kinds of, you know, salaries, what kinds of compensation, vacation packages are similar American companies in that industry offering their local employees.
Yeah, most of the in-house recruiter, they don't have too much understanding or knowledge about how overseas, how the local company could offer.
Right.
So that's where the value we could bring to them, that we could give them advice.
Right. So that could be a unique service that any headhunting agency here could provide to its clients, is market knowledge, understanding of the industry, understanding of benefits. You guys could throw workshops or seminars for local HR to understand how they should recruit overseas and what kinds of packages they should offer. I think that would be a very valuable service for like a Hired China to offer to its clients that are expanding overseas. And then, like I said, you have to make sure the marks are ticked as far as credibility and honesty. And then I think your chances are pretty good that you should find good candidates
Right.
overseas. Yeah.
So we should start from the good employer.
Correct. I'd
That
say,
you-
yeah,
yeah.
and good is a relative word. I would say an employer that has shown that it is not doing unethical practices. There's companies out there that are just completely imitating a U.S. innovation. Like, for example, I don't want to name names, but there's companies that'll like basically replicate a service or a technology or solution here in China. I don't think too many Americans would be too excited about helping provide that, support. But if there's a Chinese company that's doing something unique and creative and innovative, like TikTok, in my opinion, then of course I think there'd be a huge demand for working for that kind of company. TikTok is very innovative. In fact, Instagram and YouTube are starting to like imitate some of its features. So that's the new Chinese economy versus the old Chinese economy. And that actually brings up one more point that I forgot to mention, is this perception that Chinese companies just imitate American companies and European companies is kind of old school thinking. I think the new generation of Chinese companies, I have personal experience with one, which is a plant-based meat company called Starfield. They're not imitating Western companies and Western ideas. They have completely different marketing strategies, completely different customer acquisition strategies, and products that curtail to their markets locally. So they're not looking at as much as how Western companies are operating. They're designing and innovating themselves. And I think that's the new generation, like a Xiaomi or a Starfield, versus the old generation, which we all know, the old school Chinese companies that are, fairly unethical. So.
Okay, thanks for sharing.
Sure.
You just mentioned the two parts. One is the trust.
Yeah.
Build a trust. So see if they are doing the unethical practice. Second one is the good compensation
Yeah.
to attract the local candidates.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, last question is that how could our head recruiters or the company itself to see their reputation in the overseas? Like, is there any website?
What's the question? How can what?
Like, I'm the in-house of recruiter of some company. How could I see what's the local people opinion towards our company's business or or the compensation? Like Glassdoor, is there any way that we could see our company's, like our clients' reputation in the local, among the local people?
I mean, I think if they already have a company and operating in those markets, then Glassdoor would be one of those ways, right? You just go to the Glassdoor and look at the feedback of that company in the local market. I don't know that much detail about how you guys look and analyze the research to figure this stuff out, but my first answer would be Glassdoor. And if it's a new startup in China that's trying to get into the American market and has not emerged in the US market before, then you're not going to have a lot of information. So when I talk about ethical and unethical, I'm not talking about ethical practices in the local market. I'm talking about ethical practices in China. So if you decide to take, before you decide to take on a client, you should have a checklist or criteria of the kind of clients that you want to take on. And these clients should be ethical in China. They should be creating new ideas and new innovations. It shouldn't seem like they're just basically a copycat of an American company. So what I meant by ethical and trustworthy is, do you have trust in them as a recruiting agency that they would be a credible client for you? Or do you think they're going to commit unethical practices in the local markets?
Got it.
Yeah.
Very useful advice. Thank
Should
you.
we play with Coco a little bit?
Okay.
Here, let's Coco. Let's take you to the. Come on, let's go, Coco. Coco, you want to play? You have anything to say, Coco? Coco, what do you think of the dog world of Shenzhen? What do you think of the dog world? You like it? You want to play? Shall we? Let's go. Let's go, Coco. Come on. Let's go. Victor, you in a film? Keep it going. This is unethical. Let's go. Let's go, Coco. Let's go. Coco, let's go. Yeah.
哇塞，
This is unethical. Ooh, look at that dirt. Go. Because it's Chinese New Year, right? We should tell her to come at 1:30 or 2 so we can be part of the making process. I don't want her to make it. The idea was that we make it with her. Coco, wait.
Then she could start to clean first.
Huh?
Then she could start to clean first.
Yeah, you could tell her that. Come here, Coco, here. 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 Ready? Get that? I threw it right at you.
Wait.喂 Mary。哦，我们没在，我们等一下就快回去了。
Here.
因为我看到你没有钥匙嘛，我就开着，然后下次我把钥匙直接给你，然后你就可以开门进去就好了。对。我们有时候是这样子的。
I want to make it too.
这样子因为我
She can prepare the stuff and then we can make it with her.
对，我们是今天下午想跟你一起做饺子，他说他想要体验一下嘛，过新年了，因为我明天我要回老家，然后对，然后你可以先搞，可以先，你是买了面粉是吧？是还要和面粉是吧？叫这皮，那你可以先把那些蔬菜先那个什么，先做，然后呢后面一起包饺子。
Get it? Not a good girl.
大概是1个小时。
Ready? Ready? Get. One.
对，
Coco. 1, 2. Catch it.
好的。
Good girl.
好的。
Good girl.
我们是打算会买，但是我们还在想买什么东西。你有对，
Two.
会。
Catch it. Cole, that's not a good girl. This is not a good girl.
好的。
1,
拜拜。
2, sit. Catch it. Cool. Not a good girl. That's not a good girl. I want to try to get her to catch it. Coco. One. Oh.
哎呦，
One. One. Two. Catch it. Oh. That's okay, but that's not a good girl. You have to get the belly back. Sit. Sit. One. Two. Catch it. Yo! Good girls. Good girls. That's a good girl. Ready? One, two, sit. Okay, I think we have enough footage. You can cut the scene now.